A very similar story to what you've heard about fathers and stuff, so I'm not going to so much focus on that and share with you a little bit briefly about the homosexual lifestyle, which you don't see in the news, which you don't see on TV shows, which you don't hear about in social media. It's a living hell. I don't know if there's anyone there that's lived in it. I have. Drugs, alcohol, all types of issues trying to mask and hide this brokenness that's so deep within, you don't even know what to do, how to handle it, how to live with it. On the outside, these facades of happiness and blissfulness and nothing can go wrong and ho, 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 everything is so funny. But then why is the depression, anxiety, and all these psychological issues skyrocket over those who are in a heterosexual lifestyle? Why is there such brokenness? Why are there so many sexually explicit partners and relationships? People having sex with people they don't even know. It's like out of control. That's what the lifestyle is about. They don't talk about the drugs, what AIDS does, what hepatitis C does. I mean, you hear about this safe sex. There isn't safe sex. There is one type of safe sex, and that's how God is intended in a monogamous man-woman relationship. You don't hear that in the lifestyle. And I just want to share that with you because it's very real. It's what's portrayed to our culture is it's glamorous, it's exciting, it's safe, it's fun, it's trendy, and it is one of the most destructive things you can do to yourself. And like Neil said, no, I didn't choose to deal with homosexual temptations or those types of issues, but I did choose to go against God's word and be actively involved in the homosexual lifestyle. I did that for about 5 years. And one of the nights when my partner and I were arguing, fighting back and forth, I'll never forget this night that God spoke to me and said, "You'll be sharing your story publicly someday." I'm kind of like, no way. That ain't going to happen. Well, hello. You know, I'm here tonight, and I've been sharing my story probably for a little over 10 years. June 8, 2002, God called me back. I did grow up in the church, had a functional family. Every family is dysfunctional, and but I'd say my family was more on the functioning side of the dysfunction. And yet I still dealt with same-sex temptations. And I didn't know what to do with that and decided, like I said, to go in the lifestyle. But in June 8, 2002, God pulled me out of that. Literally took everything from me. Accounts changed, all kinds of, not so much like Job, because I wasn't that broken, but literally no access to cash, no access to my bank accounts. All I had was credit card debt and nowhere to live. And the next morning, I walk out to my car, and there's $5 laying on the street in Palm Springs, on a public street next to my car. And God spoke to me again and said, "I took care of the Israelites in the desert, and I'll take care of you and yours." And from that day, he just started doing miracles. One of those miracles is my wife. And Amanda, you can come on up real quick, and I'll just have you join me as I'm sharing a little bit more. But as God started transforming my heart, there was something within me that said I wanted nothing to do with the church. Do you know why? This is about a little over 10 years ago. Because when I was in the lifestyle, the church wasn't Jesus to a lost and dying world. And I wanted to be real. I wanted to be authentic. I wanted to tell people about Jesus, what he can do, and live it. And not be condemned or be told, I was going to go to hell or whatever. Now, granted, if you don't know Jesus, you'll go to hell. But that's not, when I look at the Bible, I don't see Jesus doing that to people who are caught in sin or in brokenness. You see the love of Christ going to people and reaching out to them and speaking truth and grace and in love. So I want to talk real briefly about, and we can, on the panel, you can ask questions if you like, but kind of the transformation from same-sex attraction, homosexuality, to healthy heterosexuality. Neil, I can teach you a couple things, but I would encourage you, really, if you're dealing with same-sex issues, you need strong, healthy, heterosexual men in your life to pour into you. I have a lot of friends that are in law enforcement, and one of them is an LAPD officer, and I hung out with him, and he literally, as I was in my 30s, taught me how to date. That my dad never did that with me. I didn't learn that in high school. I was always kind of this little weakling kid, scrawny, and I didn't have boys around me that, what guys do to teach one another. What do guys do? How does this do? And it worked, I've got my my buddy to thank for helping me rope this one in, you know?
You did a good job teaching you how to date.
Oh, thanks, love. Anyway, I thought, ladies, you guys like kind of romance kind of stuff? Do you want to hear how we met? Yes. Okay, babe, do you want to share?
I get the best part of the story. I love telling how we met. It's a total God story. We would not have met had it not been for God's influence in our lives. But I work at Azusa Pacific University. You guys familiar with APU? Yeah, you can see me afterwards if you have questions about APU. But I work in an office there, and Jim had recently graduated with his MDiv, and they mailed his diploma to the wrong address. So we had to drive into the office to come pick it up. So I happened to be working at the front desk when he came in, and I handed him his diploma, and he opened it up, and I could just tell he was overwhelmed that he said, I never thought that I would be getting my degree. I was in the gay lifestyle for several years, and I never thought that I would become a pastor. And now I just, I got my degree and my Master's of Divinity, and I have a great job at a church for 5 years, and I just never thought that God would bless me in this way. I lived far from Him, and wow, He's just restored my life, and I just bought my first house. And so here's, Jim is telling about what God had done in his life, and you don't meet guys who are that open about what God had done in their lives. So that really caught my attention, and I'm thinking, wow, here's a guy, this amazing guy. He loves the Lord. He's got a good job. He's got a house. He's got a degree. And he's cute. And he knows how to date. So I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that till later. But we just started talking, and he noticed that I love the Lord too, and so he asked me out for coffee, and we went out for coffee, and then 4 months after that, he asked me to marry him, and then 5 months after that, we got married. So we just celebrated actually tomorrow, we're celebrating our 4-year wedding anniversary, so.
So yeah, it's really been fun, and I guess kind of what I want to share too, if you deal with same-sex attraction, getting married isn't necessarily, that might not be the fix or what you're supposed to do or what God's calling you to do. That doesn't mean everyone's going to end up that way, but I just want to share that change is possible, that you can choose righteousness, you can choose right living, you can choose how God has outlaid in His Word how we ought to live our lives. And we've kind of, we kind of have some cool news to share. I'll let you share it.
Oh, well, the rest of the story, or the next part of the story, is that we're going to have our first baby in February. So.
So you get to be a mom, and I get to be a dad. So I'm kind of really pumped about that. It is kind of scary, huh? But we're just really thankful and grateful to what God has done and continues to do. And I also want to be really open and honest with you all that, you know what, we don't get fixed on this earth. If you get what I'm saying. Do I get tempted? You bet. Has God healed and restored me? Absolutely. But do I get tempted? Of course. I still get to make choices. Am I going to choose righteousness, or am I going to choose to sin? Am I going to choose to succumb to my flesh, or am I going to live my life in the Spirit? Paul talks about the Romans. So I'm not going to start preaching to you all, but that's very, very real. And I don't know. I can ask in here, who in here is not tempted? I don't see any hands up. We're all tempted. And it's what choices are we going to make to walk in righteousness and not to succumb? And when we do fail, my heart is I want to confess quickly to someone and say, hey, look, I've messed up. I need to ask for forgiveness and, move on and walk in God's grace and peace. Anyway, thanks for having us here tonight. And, I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit more on our panel and let you all ask questions that you may have. Thanks.